So there's a question that I've been getting nonstop for the past couple weeks, if not months, and that's Hank, should I be using Claude or Zapier or maybe this OpenClaw thing that my friends have been talking about? Well, that's three different platforms, and all three just have had a huge moment. Anthropic has launched Claude for small business over the past couple days. OpenClaw quietly has become the most starred project on all of GitHub, and Zapier has been printing customer wins like it has been all year. If you're sitting there thinking, well, which one of these is for me? Well, first, you're asking the right question, but you're asking it wrong. These three aren't competing for the same business, they're built for different kinds of businesses. Pick wrong, and you're wasting 2 months and a couple $1,000. Pick right, and you've got a real AI teammate by July. So in this video, I'm going to break down what each one does and what they really cost, because they are wildly different in pricing, some of the security trade-offs between them, and a 4-question test that will tell you which one to start with this week. So let's get into it. So here's the thing. About 18 months ago, this conversation about AI agents really didn't exist to the extent that it does today. You really had ChatGPT agentic mode, and that was about it. Type something in, it typed back, cool. Now, 6 months ago, this picture started to change a bit. Claude Code launched, and Zapier started bolting agents onto their automation platform. Now, there were a couple of build your own frameworks floating around, but they were primarily for developers. In the last 90 days, though, everything has compressed. OpenClaw went viral. It crossed 350,000 GitHub stars, the most starred software project on the entire site. Anthropic ran their own code with Claude conference a couple weeks ago and shipped a bunch of new agentic features. And then over the last couple of days, May 13th, they launched Claude for small business, which is basically a one toggle setup that drops a working AI inside QuickBooks, HubSpot, Google Workspace, basically the tools that you are already using. So for the first time, if you're running a small or mid-sized business, you have choices, and that's good news. The bad news is that these three choices mean that there's three real ways to pick wrong. So let me give you a map here. There are three buckets that your business can sit in when it comes to AI agents today. So I'm going to go deep on each one in a minute, but here's the 30-second version so you know where we're headed. You have bucket one, which is the built for me bucket. So somebody else is doing the heavy lifting. You're just toggling it on, connecting your accounts, and the agent shows up with workflows already designed. Now, this is the Claude for small business type of setup, which is the lowest setup cost and the lowest skill required and lowest risk. Then we have bucket two, which is I'm going to wire my apps together. So let's say you've got around 8, 10, maybe even 15 different SaaS tools that you're using, and you want them to talk to each other through an AI brain. Well, this is going to be Zapier Agents. You're not really coding to any extent, but you are building. It's a visual builder, like a drag and drop, but the workflows are yours to design. And lastly, we have bucket three, which is you own it. You want the AI agent to run on your hardware, on your terms, your model of choice with no middleman. And then you can even text it from your phone like it's a person. Now, this is going to be OpenClaw and other similar opportunities out there like Mythos. You have maximum control and maximum responsibility. So we have three real options for your business, plus a quick little sidebar. So let's break down each one with what it actually costs, what it can do, and where the security risks are. So option one is Claude, and this is the one that's the most interesting right now because Anthropic just dropped a whole new layer on top of it over the last week. So quick anatomy here. There's Claude Cowork, which is Anthropic's task automation platform. Now, Claude can do things like browse the web, manage your files, and run multi-step workflows. And we also have Claude Code, which has started as a coding tool, but is now used by non-developers to do things like pull marketing reports across Google Ads and Meta and LinkedIn, run competitive analysis, query a data warehouse without writing SQL. And then we have on top of that, something called Claude for Small Business, which is a plugin that launched on May 13th. Now, if we check out here, Claude for Small Business is a toggle to go into the Customize or in Cowork, Customize. Under Customize, you can go to Personal Plugins, and I can add a plugin and browse. And then you're not going to see it right off the bat. We're going to need to scroll all the way down here. Now, when you turn it on, you can connect your accounts like QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot, Canva, DocuSign, Google Workspace, Microsoft 365. And basically what happens is Claude shows up with 15 pre-built workflows and 15 reusable skills. So let me zoom down here to show you guys where it's at. If you want to, you can type in something at the top, small business. Otherwise, right here, click the plus button, And now small business is installed and ready to use. As you can see here, right off the bat, we have our skills. And you can even see you use the / to be able to call upon some of these things. Canva creator, content strategy, close the month, for example. So if you wanted to see a live demo of this, let me know. Otherwise, what I would recommend is checking out Claude's official statement on this. They have a couple of videos in there that walk you through showing some examples of using it for QuickBooks, for example. So the type of workflows you're going to see here are payroll planning, month-end to close, cash flow forecasting, invoice chasing. Basically, Claude reads your overdue invoices, drafts the follow-up emails, schedules them, and waits for your approval before sending. Could be campaign creation, new employee onboard, and there's a ton of different options here. Claude Pro is about $20 a month. That's going to be your entry point here for one person for full access. Claude Max is around $100 or $200 a month for heavier individual use. And if you've got a team, you're looking at Team Standard at around $25 per seat per month with a 5-seat minimum, or Team Premium at $125 per seat. Now, Claude for small business itself is just a plugin, so there's no extra charge there. You're just paying for the tools you might already use, like QuickBooks, HubSpot, whatever, just the same as. So a 5-person team running Team Standard is going to be about $125 a month, and that's it. It's really predictable. It's just a flat rate, and there's really no surprises here. So the reason that I'm starting with Claude is because it's the safest of the 3 options. That's not just, marketing talk or anything like that. It's a real architectural thing. Claude does the work, but it asks before anything sends, anything posts, or anything pays. There's built-in approval gates, and when you connect, say, your HubSpot account, Claude can then only do what your HubSpot account is already allowed to do. So the permissions are inherited. If you've got read-only access to a folder, Claude has read-only access to that folder, the same boundaries you already trust. Now, the model itself is also the strongest reasoning model on the market right now for non-coding business work. When you ask it to draft something or summarize something or decide on something, you're getting top of the line output, and that's the engine behind it. Now, the honest trade-offs here is that there's not a billion different connectors out there. If you wanted to, you can build your own, which is awesome. But if your business runs on something that is not currently offered by Claude, or you wouldn't feel comfortable building it out yourself through something like Claude Code, then you might have some troubles here. So who is this for? Well, if you're a small business that already lives inside Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, and you're using QuickBooks and things of that nature, you don't want to have to learn a new platform, this is going to be a great place to be. Claude right now is the premier model that everybody is loving, and it's given the love that it honestly deserves. So option 2 is Zapier Agents. Now, it could also be Make Agents or N8N, but in this example, we're going to be talking through Zapier Agents. Now, if Claude is the AI inside the tools you already use Play, Zapier is the AI that connects all of your tools Play. And Zapier integrates with over 8,000 apps. 8,000 is a huge structural advantage here because whatever weird little SaaS tool your business depends on, Zapier almost certainly already talks to it. So when you build a Zapier agent, it can pull from your CRM, your inbox, your Slack, your spreadsheets, your form builder, your billing tool all at once. And that breadth is what nobody else has been able to touch yet. So let's take a peek at how Zapier agents work in practice. The idea here is you describe what the agent should do in plain language. You then get to pick the trigger that wakes it up. Maybe, for example, it's a new lead in HubSpot, or for this example, triggering is in terms of a new meeting that's happening. Then we can establish what the purpose is. So for this example, it's reading call transcripts and drafting follow-up email replies. Then we have the different process types. We have the role context, and then we can give it guidelines as to what we want this email to look like. From there, one of the biggest key features that Zapier has is actions. So in this example, our action here is to create the draft. So based on all of this context, it's going to take all of this context using our trigger, which is a new meeting in Fireflies. Then from there, it's going to use all the context here, the email guidelines, and then do the action, which is create that draft. So I would highly recommend using Zapier Agents if you are looking to build out something agentic, simply because it's one of the more approachable ones. If you're already using Claude, then yes, it makes sense to use their agentic features there. But if you're looking to build out a true just AI agent from scratch, Zapier is going to be the easiest one here because of what we like to call the Copilot feature. If, for example, I wanted to build out something specific to me, all I would do is describe what I wanted this agent to do, and then Zapier could build that out using natural language. So as you can see here, the Copilot feature is pretty straightforward. You simply just have to describe the workflow that you're looking to do, like I mentioned, in plain language, and it will be able to build out that connection for you, making this process so much easier than you having to identify every single step of the way. Now, when we talk about price, it can get a little bit tricky with Zapier because the free tier does give you around 100 tasks per month plus 400 agent activities per month. Now, that does sound generous, but in practice, an agent that's doing, real lead search, for example, can burn through that in honestly a couple hours, and then you're going to hit that paywall. Now, the Pro Agent add-on runs about $33 a month, which is billed annually, and that's going to give you 1,500 activities per month. Now, that's where most small businesses are going to end up. But then we also have options like Zapier's Core plan, which sits at around $20 a month. I think it's up now to about 25. And then Team is around $70 and it scales up from there. But that includes built-in logic, filters, paths, formatter steps, which is a real win, but agent activities still are going to meter here. So a genuinely busy Zapier agent for a small business is probably going to run you about $80 up to $150 a month all in, once you account for the core Zapier tier plus the agent add-on. More if it's chatty especially. Now, watch your activity counts the first month because that's where most folks are going to get surprised. I want to ensure that you know to be able to budget in for something like that as well. Now, the nice thing about Zapier is that Zapier is a very mature, well-known company. It's SOC 2 compliant. Your API tokens for all those apps live in Zapier's vault. And you're trusting Zapier with the keys to a lot of doors, but they've got a super clean track record. Now, they've got a clean track record, but it's still more attack surface than running Claude on Anthropic's infrastructure alone, just because there are more tokens stored in more places. So who is this for? Well, if your business runs on a sprawl of different tools like Slack, HubSpot, Notion, Salesforce, Gmail, and basically anything else, Zapier is going to be that wiring layer. It's one of my highest recommendations when folks are looking to move past ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot and they're looking to start to see real automations. This is where I almost always send them because of the capabilities to connect basically any and all tools that you're using on a daily basis together. Now, option 3 is OpenClaw, and this one is honestly a different animal. Now, OpenClaw is an open source personal AI agent. You can run it yourself on your laptop or maybe on a cheap VPS, and it's free as in software. It crossed around 350,000 GitHub stars in May, which makes it the most starred software project on all of GitHub, which is a pretty crazy feat to say the least. Now, the story behind it is pretty fun. It was built by a guy named Peter Steinberger, the guy who founded PSPDF Kit, and it started as a side project called Claude in late 2025. Then Anthropic sent a trademark complaint, so he renamed it Moltbot. Then OpenClaw 3 days later. And in March of this year, he joined OpenAI, and a nonprofit foundation took over stewardship of the project. So OpenClaw now sits in a pretty interesting spot where it's not only open source, it's also OpenAI affiliated, and it's model agnostic by design. So what does it actually do? Well, it's a personal AI agent that runs on your stuff and talks to you on the channels that you already use. Could be WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, Signal, anything like that, and about 20 other different channels. So you can text it like a coworker, and then it's going to text you back. You can browse the web, fill out forms, read and write files in your computer, run shell commands, execute scripts, and it can wake up at 6 a.m., read your email, check your calendar, draft replies, and have a brief waiting for you. Now, the nice thing here, though, is that it is model agnostic. Now, that's a huge part of the design. So you can wire it up to Claude, GPT 5.5, Gemini, or even a local model running up your machine through something like Ollama, and then swap them whenever you want. I myself have a OpenClaw that I use on a daily basis that's meant to be my best way to describe it would be like a productivity partner in a way. It looks at my calendar, It looks at my Gmail and my YouTube and LinkedIn, identifies, all right, well, what do we need to get done today? What does he have on the calendar that we need to focus on today? It'll even help me build out my entire week at a time so that I just have to log into work and be like, all right, let me look at my calendar. I know exactly what I need to get done because I named him Max. Max is able to help me get through that as well. So if you're looking to set something like this up, it's really through a terminal command. And what that does is it walks you through a guided 15-minute setup where all you really need to be able to do is be comfortable in opening a terminal. But it's not just like you must be a developer thing. It's really more so, all right, you hop in, you're copying and pasting one line of code over, and it's shooting it off for you. Now, a lot of times for folks like that, that can be a little scary. So when it comes to OpenClaw, it's one of the ones that's more advanced and it's a bit tougher to pitch to a company. You know what I mean? The idea of it's great, but the safety concerns behind it are a little tough, which I'm going to get to in a little bit as well. So when it comes to pricing, the nice thing here is that the software is free. What you pay for is in potentially hosting and API calls. If you run it on your own laptop, hosting is going to be $0. You just need to keep the laptop awake. If you want it to be running 24/7 reliably, you're going to spin up a VPS for $5 to $30 a month. Now, API calls for the underlying model usage are going to be usage-based. A typical small business agent is going to run about 80 cents to $24 a day. Now, it's a huge gap there, but it really depends on how chatty it is and which model you're using. Realistically, you're looking at anywhere from 50 to $200 a month, all in for active business use. For example, if you're wanting to use something like GPT 4.1 mini, that's going to be very, very cheap, and you might not even spend a couple dollars. But if you're using something like the most recent versions of Claude or ChatGPT, that gets expensive very quickly. Now, there is a killer combo here that I did want to highlight, and I haven't heard many people talk about it, but I did see it in one video that he did a really good job about talking about it, and that you can wire OpenClaw to call Zapier webhooks or hook up into Zapier's MCP, which means your phone, which is textable, is locally running agents that can trigger any of those 8,000 Zapier integrations through OpenClaw. So you can stack them together using OpenClaw as the interface in the brain, and then using Zapier as the muscle, which also makes things a bit more secure. So now OpenClaw isn't directly accessing all of your information. It's pinging Zapier, which is then able to access your information. So it makes things a bit safer there as well. And then we have security. So on one hand, OpenClaw is the most private option. The data lives on your machine and your tokens never leave your network if you don't want them to. On the other hand, you're also the IT department. So OpenClaw does have shell access and it can run scripts. If you misconfigure it or get phished, you've handed a determined attacker a lot of power. Now, Claude can't run something like RM-RF on your laptop, but OpenClaw can, and that's a real consideration. So there's a lot to take into account when looking to use something like this. OpenClaw has been hit with multiple hackers over the past couple months, but now that they're backed by OpenAI, a lot of these problems are starting to simmer away over time. It's getting much more safer. So with that being said, just take this with a grain of salt when you're looking to use these tools. Now, the honest take here is that OpenClaw is a great tool, but it's a lot of manual setup and it asks you to be your own admin. For most small businesses, I would not recommend this as a starting point. Now, where it does make a ton of sense would be at the individual level, a solopreneur, a consultant, a freelancer, or just someone that is tech comfortable who wants a personal AI agent that they can fully control. For that person, OpenClaw is basically unbeatable. For a 5-person team that just needs payroll handled, stay in Claude land. Now, there is a fourth category of AI agents out there, and you're probably never going to be touching them directly, or at least for not right now, but they matter for how you think about the whole space. Because these are specialized agents, which are frontier grade models, tuned for very specific high stakes work. Now, the clearest example right now of this is Mythos from Anthropic. Mythos is a frontier model specifically capable at computer security. Anthropic launched something called Project Glasswing, where they gave Mythos to a small group of companies, Amazon Web Services, Apple, Cisco, Google, you get the gist. The job was to find security vulnerabilities in critical software before bad actors find them. And in a few weeks, Mythos found thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities, flaws that nobody knew about across every major operating system and every major browser, including an example where a 17-year-old remote code execution vulnerability in a product called FreeBSD was found that had been there since 2009, and it found it autonomously, and exploited it to prove the flaw was real and then reported it. It is gated, and the access list is the Fortune 50 plus some open source security maintainers. There is no API, there's no toggle install, and Anthropic specifically chose not to release it broadly because the capability is dangerous in the wrong hands. Now, there's two reasons as to why I'm telling you this. First is that this is the ceiling right now. When you're evaluating the agent tools available to you, Claude, Zapier, OpenClaw, you should know that the technology is way more capable than what's in your hands today. What you're getting is the safe, productized, ready for business version. That's not a bad thing, that is a good thing, but it explains why every 6 months, the consumer-facing tools take another leap forward. Second, your bank's security team, your cloud provider, your SaaS vendors, they're using tools like Mythos right now, or they should be. Things you depend on are getting patched and hardened because of agents like this. So when you hear AI is dangerous, yes, in some hands it is. It's also one of the most powerful defensive tools in cybersecurity history. Both are true at the same time. Now, there are other specialized agents in this bucket too. OpenAI's Codex for software engineering, for example, various coding agents from Google, Cursor, and others, and then domain-specific stuff for medical research, legal review, finance. But like I said, you're not going to be using them directly. Just know that the buckets exist so that when somebody throws around AI agent as a single word, you can say, hey, which kind? I'm going to give you a test that can help you decide which of these tools makes the most sense. So question one is, do you primarily live within things like QuickBooks, HubSpot, Canva, Google Workspace, or Microsoft 365? If you answered yes, I would recommend that you would start with Claude here because it's very quick to toggle on, there's not much added cost, and you're going to be running your first workflows before lunch. Question two is, are your workflows spread across a bunch of tools that don't talk to each other? If that's the case, I'm recommending Zapier Agents. Like I said, 8,000 integrations means whatever you're using is probably already there. Question three is, are you a solopreneur, consultant, or technical individual who wants a private 24/7 agent you want to fully control? Yeah, you've guessed it. This is where I'd recommend OpenClaw, but know what you're signing up for because, yeah, you do have to set it up yourself and you have to handle security. And the question four is, do you need all of the above? Well, most growing businesses are going to end up at this point, and the answer is to stack two of them. So to end things off, I just wanted to show you a full comparison matrix of each of the options here and what I would recommend for each of them. Now, if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. The right AI agent isn't the most powerful one. It's the one that you're going to use and the one that fits you best. If this helped you think through your AI options, hit subscribe. I'm putting out videos like this every single week, breaking down what's real, what's hype, and what to do about it. Also, drop a comment below and let me know which bucket you think you're in. Either you'd want to build for you want to wire it up yourself, or you want to own the outcome. So either Claude, Zapier, or OpenClaw. Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to know your thoughts.